how would you help high-achieving people like pre-meds, pre-law, pre-farm who struggle with self-worth? Is there a certain meditation you would describe? I got drunk with a lot of pre-meds a week ago, and they were telling me stories of therapy drugs with not success they were happy with. They're struggling with their issues. Okay. So here's the thing. So a lot of times, I had a buddy who went to Harvard Law School, and I asked him, like, after his first semester at Harvard Law School, like, how he was enjoying it. And he actually said, like, it's kind of crappy. And I said, like, what makes Harvard Law School so crappy? And he's like, one of the worst, like, the people are just awful. And I said, what do you mean the people are awful? And he says, one of the worst things you can do to someone who has always been the best in their class is to make them feel average. And so what happens with a lot of these high-achieving people is that they're used to being high-achieving. Like in middle school, they had straight A's. In high school, they had very good GPAs. And so they end up in like a competitive college, right? You go to like an Ivy League school or something like that, and you're with a bunch of other pre-meds. And then suddenly, you have this identity built on being smart and smarter than everyone else. And suddenly, you're fucking average. And the funny thing is, the more high-achieving you are, the worse the problem becomes, because I want you guys to envision someone who ends up at Harvard Medical School. So not only were they the top of their class in middle school, and then in high school, and then in college when they went to their Ivy League university, and then when they wind up, because you rise higher and higher and higher, and you're always the best, and then you end up at a place like HMS. And then suddenly you're fucking average. So you've been used to not being average for even longer, and it's become even a greater part of your identity. So the biggest problems you see in self-worth are with the people who are the highest achieving. The higher your achievement goes, the bigger the problem is with self-worth. It's that simple. Right? That simple. So what do you do about it? Well, that's a great question. So I think the best thing to do, a couple of things. One is to understand that a lot of people's identity is based on comparison. So your sense of self-worth is in reflection to the people around you. That needs to change. You need to start to have an identity that's based on yourself in isolation, not in relation to someone else. And if you think about people who are like falling behind, right? So a lot of people that I work with, a lot of people on Twitch, gamers, things like that, are upset because they're behind. So like I remember when I started medical school at the age of 27, which means that the people that I entered school with who were pre-med, like when we were 20, I had a group of people who were pre-med, right? My friends from pre-med classes. And then at 22, they graduate from college and they go to medical school and they finish medical school at 26. So I remember when I was 26 years old and they were moving on to residency and graduating, they would ask me, hey man, what are you up to nowadays? And when they're graduating from medical school, I would say, I'm applying to medical school. I didn't even tell them that because that's fucking, it's so shaming. 6 years ago, we were in the same shoes, and now I'm still applying to the school that you were graduating from. That's the comparative mindset. And then you feel shame. Right? And so you just got to stop comparing yourself. There are meditation techniques around that. We'll do that today. Okay? Yeah, so then the second part of this question is that they were telling me stories of therapy, drugs, etc., that were not succeeding. Yeah, because like a drug is not going to fix that. You guys get that? Like if you're used to being the smartest kid in the room, and that's what your identity has been based on since you were the age of 10, and suddenly at the age of 22, the entire person that you are gets called into question because you're average, a medication is not going to fix that. It's just not going to fix it. So, like, a medication can help with some of the symptoms of that, but it's not going to fix it. So what you've got to do is give people a sense of worth or a sense of identity that is based on themselves as opposed to not on comparison. And if you can do that, they're going to be fine.